Hi, my name is Scarlett, and I've always been the most popular and beautiful girl in the class. You may think that my life sounds amazing, but trust me, it isn't. Being beautiful also has its downsides, especially when everybody stereotypes me because I'm blonde. One time in primary school, my teacher asked me to give a speech to the whole school about climate change. But as I walked onto the stage, my body just froze in fear. I was experiencing stage fright. Climate change is... My legs felt like they would tremble into another dimension.
She doesn't even know what she's talking about!
Looks like she gave up beauty for brains.
Everyone erupted into laughter.
No, I do.
And unfortunately, because of my stage fright, everyone thought I was dumb. My bad reputation stuck throughout the rest of my time at school, despite my good grades. Like this one time at school, we were hanging out when suddenly I heard a shout from across the field. The crowd was forming, and I rushed over to find a young, nerdy boy being picked on by the mean boy, Oscar.
Your eyes look like cubes. From now on, they should call you Cube Boy.
Oscar, leave him alone! You shouldn't pick on him for needing glasses. At least he has brains, unlike you. The other kids laughed, and Oscar huffed and ran away in embarrassment. Are you okay? I expected some kind of thank you, but all I got was...
I don't need your help, especially not from a blockhead.
Fine! Next time I won't help you! When I got home that evening, I was really nervous. Today was the day I would ask my mom if I could study to be a doctor. You see, I've always wanted to help people, and it's always been a huge dream of mine. Mom, I have a favor to ask. I want you to sign these university papers so I can go study medicine and—
Hold the phone! You want to study medicine? As if! You will become a model. We can't be wasting those godlike features of yours. But no buts! Ugh!
I stormed off to my room in anger. If my mom wouldn't let me study medicine, I'd just have to trick her into thinking I was going to uni for fashion. She would never know. She hardly even cared about my life. I was so excited to get started, but as I walked in, someone kicked a ball right at my head.
Ouch!
I looked up to find Prince Charming. At least he looked like a prince.
Are you okay?
Well, thanks. Are you new here as well?
Wait, you don't know who I am? Typical of a snobby princess like yourself.
Excuse you?
It's me, Charlie, from school.
That nerdy kid I rescued from that brute Oscar. But you're so handsome now.
Look, the fashion department is that way. This is the medicine section.
I know that. I'm going to become a doctor.
Sure thing.
What was that? What was wrong with this dude? He hadn't even apologized for hitting me in the head with a ball. In my first lecture, the stares of the other students were a little distracting.
Okay, class. Who can tell me what the meaning of pyrexia is?
I raised my hand immediately, but another guy beat me to it. My blood boiled when I saw it was Charlie. He sniggered at me before answering.
Pyrexia is hypothermia.
Unfortunately, Charlie, that is incorrect. Anyone else?
Oh, me!
Yes?
Pyrexia is another word for fever.
Correct! Well done,
Scarlett.
Scarlett. Maybe Charlie here can learn a thing or two from you.
Now it was my turn to look smug. Oh, I loved the look on his shocked face. Later at lunch, I went to sit at a quiet table when a shy girl approached me. Hi, my name is Katie, and I just wanted to say that you did really great in that lecture and— But before she could say anything else, a flock of people pushed her aside and surrounded me.
That was amazing.
You're hot, and you've got the brains.
But before they could press in any further, I took a big sip of my milk and sprayed them all with it.
Ew, gross!
Let me pass, please. I went to sit at the table with Katie while they all stared in shock. You were saying? The crowd shuffled away in shock, but I didn't care. They had pushed Katie aside so rudely, as if she didn't exist. Thank you for that, but you don't have to sit with me. I understand if you don't want to. Oh, but I do. Tell me more about yourself, Katie. We got chatting, and sure enough, we really hit it off. One afternoon, Katie and I were studying in the library, and I went to get a book from the shelf, but it was too high. Suddenly, someone appeared from behind and got it for me.
Thank you.
Oh, it's you.
Aren't you gonna thank your knight in shining armor?
I smirked and leaned in. I was only playing with him, but when I leaned in, his face flushed with the brightest red I've ever seen. Was he blushing?
Whoa, relax. I wasn't actually gonna kiss you.
Good. I would hate it if you, kissed me because, you're gross.
Then he ran out of there as if his pants were on fire. Well, that was weird. When I returned to Katie, I told her about Charlie being there.
What? Did he see me? Wait a second. Do you have a crush on Charlie?
Shh, don't tell anybody. But wait, are you sure you have a crush on him?
Because, no offense, but he's
Kind of a dimwad.
No, really. He's actually kind and sweet.
Are we talking about the same Charlie?
Listen, I was wondering if you could, help me out.
I didn't know how I felt about this shocking news, but I agreed to help her. I started off by giving her a makeover. We boosted up her style, brushed her hair, and by the end of it, she was looking like a model.
How did you do it?
You already had it in you, baby. When we went to class that day, everyone was stunned by Katie. But when Charlie walked in, he didn't even glance at Katie. Instead, he turned to me.
Hello, princess.
Really? That's the best you can do? No matter what we tried, Charlie paid Katie no attention. As we left class, though, we ran into a face from the past.
Oscar?
Oh, hi, Scarlet. How?
When he noticed Katie, his jaw dropped.
Are you Oxygen? Because I need you in my life.
I rolled my eyes, but Katie was blushing. Ugh, come on, Katie. You can do better than Oscar. Even though Charlie didn't seem to care about Katie, he had no problem teasing me all the time. Eventually, I decided I would do Katie a favor and just tell Charlie she liked him. So one evening, I knocked on the door to his dorm.
Scarlet, what are you doing here?
Listen, I'm just gonna come out and say it. My bestie Katie has a crush on you, and she's a really wonderful person and you should date her.
There's one problem though. I kinda have a crush on someone else.
Seriously, who could be better than Katie?
Well, you.
My jaw fell open and I started gasping like a fish. And I don't know how I did it, but I threw my cup of juice in his face and ran off. I guess I was just so confused. He was always teasing me. How could he have a crush on me? I didn't tell Katie about the strange encounter. I didn't even know how I felt. But the universe works in mysterious ways, because one day, our professor assigned us partners for a science project, and he paired me with Charlie.
I wish I could be paired with Charlie.
It was so awkward. Somehow, Charlie and I managed to finish our project, and the day came to present it to the class. But when I walked in front of everyone, my legs started wobbling like jello. This presentation,
What's wrong?
I have major stage fright.
I saw Charlie hesitate, but then he held my hand tightly.
Don't worry, I'm right here.
And somehow, that small touch gave me enough courage to speak. After we finished, I hugged Charlie and I felt like I was blushing too. But then I saw Katie in the crowd and I immediately felt a wave of guilt wash over me. Why did she have to like him? But surprisingly, when I met up with Katie later, she gave me some shocking news.
You remember that guy Oscar we met the other day? Well, he asked me on a date, and I said yes.
What? But I thought you liked Charlie.
I mean, I did, but he pays me no attention, and Oscar has been so loving.
I was so happy for Katie, but for reasons she didn't realize. One night, there was a massive party, and Katie forced me to go since Oscar was going. When we arrived, she left to go find Oscar, and I went outside by the pool. I was standing there, brooding in my own thoughts, when suddenly a crazy dude ran past and knocked me into the pool.
Help!
My dress was so heavy in the water that it kept dragging me down. I was so scared. But then a strong hand grabbed me out of the water and held me in a tight hug.
You're okay. It's okay.
We hugged tightly, and I realized in that moment how amazing Charlie was. So I kissed him. It felt magical, but then there was a cry behind us.
How could you? Katie, you don't even like Charlie anymore. You're with Oscar now, and...
But she ran off before I could say anything else. From that night on, Katie stopped speaking to me, avoiding me in hallways, ignoring me in class. It was so immature. But I didn't realize just how far she would go when I got to my room and found a big sign on the wall in red, "Don't become a doctor." I wondered who could have done this when there was a sudden knock at the door. I was shocked to see Charlie there, looking all nervous.
Hey, Scarlet, I was wondering.
When Charlie saw the message, his eyes widened.
Oh no, don't worry. We'll clean this up.
Charlie calmed me down, and then together we started washing off the paint. But then there was another knock at the door. Man, was I popular today. I went to answer and was surprised to see Katie.
Listen, Scarlet, we need to talk.
At that moment, Charlie stepped into view and Katie's eyes widened. Then she looked angry.
Oh, I'm sorry, Your Majesties. Am I interrupting something?
Suddenly, I realized who was behind the threatening message.
It was you! You wrote the message!
I showed her the red paint on the wall.
Do you really think I would stoop that low? That's it! You've insulted me enough! We're through!
Katie and I officially broke our friendship. I was sad, but I couldn't stay friends with someone who would write a message on my wall like that. Luckily, though, I had Charlie. He asked me out, and I said yes. And we were having a study session one day when Charlie poked my nose.
You look so cute when you're thinking.
We leaned in and we were about to kiss when I picked up the phone and Mom answered.
What's up, Mother? Scarlet, I'm on my way to see you. What? No. You? Oh, I'm going through a tunnel. I'll see you soon.
My heart dropped like a stone. If my mom found out I was studying medicine, she would force me to leave uni. Quick, remove any evidence of medicine from my room.
What?
Just do it!
With Charlie's help, I took down all of my doctor's posters, my medicine books, my papers, everything. We then replaced everything with fashion-themed stuff just in time for the door to open, and there was my mom.
Scarlet! Oh, how I've missed you, sweetie. And who's this young man? My friend, Charlie. Ooh, another fashion student. Who's your favorite fashion icon?
Abraham Lincoln.
What?
Anyway, glad you got to meet Charlie, but he's gotta go. Bye, Charlie!
I was so relieved when my mom finally left. There was one strange moment, though, as she was leaving. Listen, Scarlet, is there anything you want to tell me before you leave? No? Okay. That short scare with my mom was soon forgotten about. The next day, when Charlie invited me for a picnic, it was so romantic. Oh no, I forgot I made sandwiches. I left them in my room.
Don't worry, I'll go get them.
He left from my room, but a few minutes later, he came running back in a panic.
There's smoke coming from your dorm.
What?
He ran over to find all my medicine papers were destroyed, burned to a crisp.
No! All my research! My hard work! Who did this?
There was a sound from the closet, and we both froze.
I think the culprit is still in here.
We crept over and Charlie flung the door open. I was fully expecting to find Katie there, but I was shocked to see my mom instead.
Mom? You were behind this! And that message, did you write that too? Yes. I'm sorry, honey, but when I found out you were studying medicine, I had to put a stop to it. Why? Because you're beautiful. It would be an injustice not to become a model. Can't you see that I'm more than just a pretty face? All my life, people have called me dumb and stupid just because I don't look like your typical smart nerd or whatever. I need you to support me with this. It's my dream to become a doctor.
And she's really smart. Smartest in our class, actually.
I smiled at him gratefully, and then my mom let out a sigh.
I suppose I have been a little harsh. Fine. I'll let you become a doctor, but only if you promise to keep up your skincare routine. I would never dream of letting that go.
We all laughed, and it seemed this was the end of my story. But there was one more thing that needed resolving. Graduation came along, and I was honored with giving the valedictorian speech. I expected the same stage fright as before when I walked on stage, but surprisingly, I felt very calm.
All my life, people have told me what I'm supposed to be. Nothing more than a pretty face. But today proves them wrong.
The crowd cheered, and as I walked off the stage, Katie appeared.
Scarlet,
I owe you an apology. My parents were the ones who sabotaged my thesis. I'm sorry I accused you wrongly. And things with Charlie, I'll break up with him if you need me to. I'll do anything for you.
No, don't do that. I'm with Oscar now, and just because I used to have a crush on Charlie doesn't mean you can't date him. Let's make sure a guy never comes between us again. Never.
We hugged, and it was the perfect end to my story. Hi, I'm Sarah, and I was born in the beautiful town of Woodmead. I loved it there because we were surrounded by people who knew and loved us. I was 5 years old when we spent our last Christmas there, opening gifts with my cousins.
Look, I got a jewelry box with a little ballerina. I know how much you love ballet, so Mom let me get it for you.
The gifts were great, but it was about having all of our family and friends around that made me love Christmas. But about a month later, my parents started acting so weirdly.
Put on this wig and sunglasses. We're going on a little trip.
But why do I have to wear this, Mom?
We're going to play pretend. You can even choose a new name for yourself.
Ballet shoes. I want to be called Ballet Shoes.
And ever since then, we've never been back to Woodmead, not even to see family. I was homeschooled, and I wasn't allowed to speak to anyone. When I was around 10, I got so sick and tired of our life, I ran out the gates and into the forest.
Sarah! Sarah!
I'll only come out when you tell me that we can go back to our old home.
But this is our new life, honey. I thought you'd be used to it by now.
How can anyone get used to living like an alien? Every time we go out, we all wear wigs and change our names. I'm tired of it. Take me back to see my cousins and friends.
Mom eventually found me behind the tree and carried me back home. I was so angry at my parents, but they never heard me out. And then one day, when I was 14, they were watching the news and the reporter was talking about fugitives.
Are we fugitives? Is that why we can't talk to anyone?
No, honey, we are actually...
Dad was about to tell me what the real deal was, but Mom stopped him to tell me the greatest news, and I forgot about the fugitive thing.
I've got good news for you. You can start going to real school.
But on one condition, you can't make friends or speak to anyone.
I was so excited to finally get out of the house, so I didn't worry much about the terms and conditions. On my first day of school, I was so excited, but it soon wore off. As I walked down the school corridor, I noticed everyone staring at me. They whispered as I walked by, but I knew I couldn't speak, so I just rushed to my class. When I got into the class, the teacher smiled at me strangely and introduced me to the class.
Class, this is Sarah. Do you remember me telling you about her?
The teacher suddenly started speaking to me like she had a speech problem.
Welcome to class, Sarah.
I thought it would be different at school, but I still felt like an alien. Everyone acted so strange. When I got home, Mom and I started dinner, then Dad came home.
How are my favorite girls?
You're only girls.
Dinner's ready. Let's eat. Then it's game night and Dad gets to choose.
How was school today, Pumpkin? Talk to anyone?
No, Dad. I didn't talk to anyone.
What's the matter, sweetie?
Today at school, all the kids were staring and whispering, as if something was wrong with me. And then when I got to class, the teacher spoke to me so slowly.
You were new there, sweetie. Everything will seem strange.
That doesn't make any sense.
At least you're around other kids, right?
I guess.
I couldn't stop thinking about how strange everyone acted. After dinner, I didn't feel like playing any games, so I went straight to bed. Months went by, and I was still the quiet weirdo at school with no friends. Soon, everyone started talking about Christmas gifts.
Hey, who do you have to get a gift for?
I'm not telling. It would ruin the whole surprise.
All right, everyone. Here are the science results.
This was my favorite subject, and whenever I got an A+ on my tests, kids would be jealous and pick on my muteness.
I wonder how the mute girl gets 100% all the time.
Maybe she's the teacher's favorite because she's so quiet.
After they were done talking, I walked past their table and let out a smelly, soft gas right next to the tables.
Ew, I think I'm going to vomit. What's that disgusting smell?
I smiled and walked out of the class, feeling good about my sweet revenge. Later that night, while I sat reading, Mom and Dad watched the news again. And then suddenly, I heard that fugitive word again.
Mom, Dad, I know I've asked before, but are we fugitives?
Well, sweetie, it's like this.
No, sweetie, we're not. Fugitives are usually on the run because they've done something bad.
Have we done something bad?
No, sweetie.
Can we talk about something happier, please?
The kids at school are going to exchange gifts for Christmas.
Oh, that reminds me. We need to plan for our annual party.
We're We're the only ones that are going to be there, Dad. Some party that will be.
My parents didn't understand. I wished so badly to have a friend my age, just to talk to. A week later, I think my wish came true because a new girl joined our class and she kept glaring at me and I just kept smiling back.
Class, this is Alia. She is new here. I want you all to be nice.
Alia sat down and didn't seem to mind that I didn't speak.
Hello.
I just smiled and waved back. She smiled back and I had such an urge to open my mouth and say, "Can we be friends, please?" And then during recess, while I sat all by myself as usual, Alia came and sat with me.
Hi again. Do you mind if I sit here?
I smiled and nodded again. She must have thought I was a crazy person, all this smiling and nodding. But she really didn't mind, since she kept coming back. After a few weeks of listening to Alia, I could tell why she didn't have any other friends. She was a motor mouth.
Hey, Sarah. How was your weekend? My mom took me to get a dress for the Winter Wonderland dance, and then we went to this beautiful museum. It was so much fun. I even got this really cool glow stick and a chain and a bracelet and this awesome nightlight. It makes all the items at the museum show on the walls at night and...
I smiled and waited for the rest of Alia's story, but then she said something that I couldn't keep quiet about.
Oh, how I wish you didn't have that speech disorder. I so want to know how your weekend went. Just imagine if...
I shouted out before Alia could complete her sentence.
Speech disorder? Who told you I have a speech disorder?
The principal. Your parents told him just so the other kids wouldn't pick on you.
I was so mad I could have screamed again, but the others were coming in. The teacher continued with the lesson, but I wasn't paying attention. I obeyed my parents, and now I find out they lied about why I didn't speak. It was time for me to return the favor.
Okay, class. Today is book reading day. Does anyone want to go first? Thank you, Sarah. You can leave your book on my desk.
But instead, I started reading my book fluently. The teacher in the class stared at me in amazement, and then one of the girls stood up and shouted,
She can speak! It's a miracle!
I couldn't contain myself and burst into a fit of giggles. The rest of the class followed along. During recess, all the kids surrounded me like I was a celebrity, wanting to hear me speak. Alia eventually came to my rescue.
Okay, guys, give Sarah a break. She just found her voice.
We don't want her to lose it again.
Yeah, guys, Alia's right. She never gets tired of talking, so you're welcome to stay and listen to her. Be warned, though, she doesn't have a stop button or even a pause. We all laughed. It felt amazing to be part of the class and not left out anymore. And all the kids were so accepting.
I'm glad I caught you before you left. Oh, I'm sorry. I hope it's not about the joke I made during recess. It was honestly just a joke. I love that you are so talkative.
And no, I wasn't offended. I wanted to know if you have a partner for the Christmas gift-giving day.
I almost forgot about that. No, I don't.
Great, then we can get gifts for each other. Things were really looking great for me at school until I got home. Dad was sitting on the couch, looking very serious.
Dad, are you all right? Mom didn't speak to me at all on the way home. Is everything okay?
The principal of your school called us this morning.
My heart sank. I knew what was coming.
He said that everyone was calling it a miracle that you are speaking.
Well, how long were you going to keep this from us? And don't stutter. You're a walking miracle to your friends.
Yes, Mom, friends.
For the first time in a long time, I felt accepted and part of the group. I won't apologize for that.
You watch your tone, young lady. We are still your parents.
I have to wonder, what is that supposed to mean?
You lied to the principal that I couldn't speak because of a speech disorder.
How could you do that? And what about taking me away from all the people we loved and making me dress like someone else? Sometimes I don't even know who I am or where I belong. And who wants their child to be a mute at school and not have any friends?
Everything we do is to keep you safe.
Safe from what? A bunch of teenagers?
Enough. Go to your room.
Mom and Dad were being so unfair, and I felt like an animal stuck in a cage. The next morning, I went to the kitchen and Mom and Dad were there. I ignored them, but they looked so sad.
We're sorry about last night, sweetie. We understand that we have been hard on you.
And to make it up to you, we're going to let you be a part of the Christmas gift exchange. We just have to get a gift from the mall.
Whoa! Alia was right! I did find my voice! Mom and Dad actually heard me out last night. When we got to the mall, I was so excited to look for a gift for Alia.
Okay, remember, no wandering off, all right?
Yes, Mom, I know. Mom and Dad were being so cool. We got the gift and we had lunch, then played games at the arcade. I was so exhausted by the time I got to the car that I fell fast asleep.
Wake up, Sleepy. We're home.
I felt like I slept for hours, but I couldn't have because when Mom woke me, she said we were home. The only thing was, this wasn't home. The more I looked around, the more confused I was. Mom, Dad, where are we?
This is our new home.
No, it's not. I want to go home.
Sarah, please! You're acting like a baby! Stop treating me like one! The moment I get close to anyone, you move across the state! What is wrong with you?
I was so upset. I ignored Dad when he tried to explain. He left with Mom to move our things into his new house, while I sat in the car. Then he came over to me.
Sarah, are you all right?
No, Dad, I can't do this anymore. It may have been fun when I was little, not anymore.
Okay, it's late. We should head inside. Tomorrow we see the new school. What do you say, sweetie?
I say no!
Eventually, I gave in and started in the new school.
For this next experiment, I want you to pair up.
After the teacher gave his instructions, Lincoln approached me. He was this guy that no one paid attention to since he dressed like a goth.
Well, looks like that's you and me.
He did the exact opposite of what the teacher said and started pouring yellow liquid into the beaker.
Relax, you'll see. And this goes in next.
And the next thing I knew, we were covered in green goop that exploded all over us.
Oops, I guess I heard wrong.
We were sent to get cleaned up, and as we walked, Lincoln talked and talked.
So, what's your story? I heard that you can't speak. Were you born without a tongue or something?
It felt like deja vu, and I was so angry at my parents for spreading this lie again, so I just told Lincoln the truth. I have a tongue, so you can squash your crazy theory. I just can't make friends.
Wow, you're actually good at it. Talking, I mean. You know, it might help you make friends.
You think I don't know that? Before I knew it, I had told Lincoln my whole sad story. I felt good getting it off my chest, and I didn't take Lincoln for a gossip. But when I got to school the next day, I realized I was wrong about him.
What's it like having fugitive parents?
Excuse me?
Have you always been on the run?
Then I knew Lincoln gossiped. When I found him, I let him have it.
How could you? I never said we were fugitives!
I must have heard wrong.
I felt like shaking Lincoln so he would hear straight, but then this monster of a girl came at me from nowhere. I managed to move out of her way just before she could ram me.
You leave my brother alone, or else I won't miss next time. Your brother is a gossip.
Jess, it's all right. I'm fine. See?
Jessica didn't hear Lincoln. She took a swing at me, but couldn't land it because someone grabbed her arm. The principal was the one that grabbed Jessica's arm. It turns out this wasn't the first time she got into trouble trying to defend Lincoln.
I just got a final warning and 2-week suspension because of you.
Well, at least you get to come back.
I didn't care who Jessica blamed. I was just so mad at Lincoln. He turned out to be such a jerk. When I went into the office, the principal left and my mom and dad were there. Immediately, my defenses went up.
Are you all right?
Yeah, Mom, I'm all right.
We shouldn't have pressured you. We only thought about keeping you safe, and not how this might make you feel.
I didn't expect this. I was so used to fighting Mom and Dad by now, I didn't know what to say, so I cried.
I'm so sorry. I should have listened. Now look what's happened because I couldn't keep quiet. It's all right, sweetie. I should have told you from the start. We're in a witness protection program. Your dad and I testified against some hardened criminals, and we couldn't risk them finding you. Oh, Mom, I'm so sorry I never trusted you.
I think it's time we go home.
When we got home, I saw that Mom and Dad had packed. This was something I should have expected.
Okay, we're all set.
Ready, sweetie?
Yes, Dad. Dad loaded the car, and we set off. I wondered about the next town.
You should get comfy, sweetie. We're in for a long drive.
Where are we headed?
Home, sweetie. Home.
I soon fell asleep. I woke up when I felt the car stop. We were parked outside our old house in Woodmead. I didn't understand. I thought we weren't safe here. Mom, Dad, what are we doing here?
I told you we were going home.
Those bad people I told you about, they have finally been sent to prison.
It was Christmas, and we were all together, just like when I was little. But I had to do something very important. Mom, Dad, can we go for one last trip?
Okay, but it's Christmas.
I know, but I promised someone that I would buy them a gift. My parents agreed, and I couldn't wait to get to our destination. When we finally arrived, I knocked on the snowflake-decorated door, and I was so happy to see Alia's face again.
Sarah? What are you doing here? I thought I would never see you again.
I came to give you your present. Alia immediately hugged me, almost crying.
Thank you for remembering. This means a lot. I kept your present as well.
This is what I loved most about Christmas. Not the gifts, but being able to make someone smile. Hi there, I'm Bree from Texas. Growing up next to the perfect sister, who always liked to be the center of attention, was exhausting.
A perfect 100! We're so proud of you, Annie.
Bree, you should be more like your sister.
Annie was obviously my parents' favorite, and they just couldn't help rubbing it in my face. My sister was the polar opposite of me. She was smart, fashionable, pretty, and super mean.
Ew! Did a bird make its nest in your hair?
While I was reckless, carefree, and loved animals, I could spend hours playing with them and even brought some home sometimes. But Mom and Dad weren't great fans of my friends. At school, everyone found it hard to believe that I was Annie's sister because she was so perfect and I was, well, weird. Once, in 6th grade, I had forgotten my pet rat in my backpack, and it caused so much chaos in my class.
Oh my god! A rat came out of her bag! Sebastian, come here right now!
Take that thing out of my class!
Annie was so angry about the incident that she dragged me to a corner after class and yelled at me.
You silly oaf! It's fine if you want to embarrass yourself, but do that outside. School is my territory, and everyone knows you're my sister.
Oh, forgive me, Your Majesty. Here, take my pet rat as a peace offering. I snatched my arm from her and she walked away. Ugh, why did she always have to be so uptight? Pretty soon, Annie and I graduated high school. Annie with perfect straight A's, and me with, well, you don't want to know. To celebrate Annie's grades, my parents made a big announcement a month before Christmas.
We'll be taking a vacation trip to an island in Guatemala.
What? I don't want to go.
We can't leave you behind to play with your silly animals. You're coming with us, Bree.
Yeah, Bree, not everyone is a creep like you.
You know what an island is full of, right?
Insects and creepy crawlies.
We traveled to Guatemala and vacation on the island wasn't as bad as I thought. On the day we arrived, we all dressed up in our swimsuits to explore the sea. But when I saw Annie, I nearly tripped in shock. She looked so weird in her fur bikini, and I had to hold myself back from bursting into laughter. What's that?
It's a fur bikini made popular by Kim Kardashian herself. Get with the times, dummy.
It makes you look like a furry sea slug. You know the fish might think you're one, right? Annie's face turned red like a tomato about to burst. I snickered and pranced out of the lodge before she could say anything. An hour later, we were chilling by the shore. I was reading some silly sports magazine I had found in the lodge while Annie showed off her pathetic swimming skills to my parents. Just looking at them fawning over her made me want to puke.
I can do the backstroke too.
Suddenly, she shrieked and jumped out of the water, her entire body covered in lobsters.
Ah! Get them off me!
My parents scrambled after her while I stayed in my seat dying of laughter. She looked ridiculous.
I warned you about the fur.
Seeing me laugh made Mom furious.
Your sister's dying and you're laughing, Bree?
It's just lobsters. She'll be fine. God, they were so dramatic.
That's it. Go to your room.
Whatever. I grabbed my things and headed back to the lodge. I stayed there for a while, but I got bored, so I threw on some safari clothes and went exploring. While exploring the island, suddenly I came across a rabbit with its legs stuck in between some branches. I was about to help it when I felt something poke me in the back.
Not one step further, intruder! You're not allowed to harm the animals of this island!
It was a girl, and she sounded like she was going to attack me. The rabbit is stuck. I finally saw her face and was stunned by how pretty she was.
Like your kind is capable of being nice.
Of course I am.
Prove it!
I walked up to the rabbit and freed it, then knelt beside it and stroked its back.
You're different from the other visitors we've had.
Her name was Grenda, and she sounded so surprised I had helped the rabbit. We started talking.
Where are you from?
Texas. Where's that? I realized Grenda had no idea what the outside world was like. She'd never been outside the forest before.
So you don't even know what a telescope is? How does it work?
I taught her how to use the telescope.
Why are your eyes so big?
They're not. The telescope just makes everything bigger. What else do you see?
I can see a tree. Oh, and a bird, and a snake. Wow, it's like magic.
By the time we were done, it was almost dark, so I had to dash back to the lodge. But we promised to meet at the same spot the next day. After that strange encounter, Grenda and I started to hang out regularly. She didn't care one bit about my strange bond with animals, and we quickly became friends. Come, I want to show you something. Grenda grabbed my arm and dragged me to a secluded part of the island, where a magnificent, gigantic bird stood right in its middle. Wow, it's our goddess Momo, reincarnated as a bird. I circled the bird, admiring its beautiful white feathers. It was a dodo bird, which had not been seen in centuries. No one outside my tribe is allowed into this place, but I showed it to you because I trust you, Bree. I'd never betray your trust, Grenda. You know, it's so beautiful, just like you. Grenda's stare made me feel butterflies in my tummy. Her face started to come close. OMG! Was she about to kiss me? But before anything could happen, we heard some noises in the bushes and panicked.
Who's there?
There was no response. Grenda and I looked around but couldn't find anyone. We still couldn't shake the feeling that someone was there. I shouldn't have done this. You're not supposed to be here. Let's leave. We parted ways. I went back to the cabin while she returned to her home. The next day, I was getting ready to explore the other parts of the island when I noticed Grenda approaching me angrily from a distance. Tears were streaming down her cheeks. Grenda! I ran up to her, but she shoved me so hard I was surprised she wasn't secretly an MMA fighter hiding in a young girl's body.
You thief! I should have known better than to trust you! What are you talking about? You stole our sacred bird! What? Grenda, no! I'd never do that!
I tried to calm her, but she just ran off in a storm.
I don't ever want to see you again!
I chased after her, but holy macaroni, she was fast! After a while, I stopped to catch my breath and think. Grenda was my only friend. I couldn't lose her. I was going to prove to her I had nothing to do with her missing sacred bird. I began to search all over the island for the bird, but by evening, I couldn't find any trace of it. I returned to the cabin, disappointed, but before I could open the door, I heard Annie's voice from her room.
Ugh! Why are you so heavy?
What was she up to this time? I went to check and was surprised to find the little she-devil had the dodo bird in her room.
Look! You large, lazy monster!
I thought you were supposed to be smart, because this is the dumbest thing I've ever seen.
Ugh, stop whining and help me get this bird under control!
Do you have any idea how much trouble you've landed us in? You stole their goddess!
Goddess? Pfft, that's dumb. This is a dodo bird, and I can't wait to show it to Mom and Dad. They'll be so proud when they found out I discovered an extinct bird.
What? It's not yours.
It's mine if I say so.
Annie and I began to fight for the bird.
Let go!
In the midst of our struggle, suddenly some people from Grenda's tribe emerged from the nearby bushes and surrounded us with sharp weapons. In the middle were Dad and Mom, bound in chains, looking so confused.
Honey, what is that thing?
That's not a thing. That's Momo, our goddess, and you will respect her.
Before I could say anything, Annie and I were put in chains and we were all dragged away like common criminals. They moved us to a side of the island I'd never explored before. It was full of huts and more people like Grenda. We were presented before a man I assumed was the king.
This must all be a mistake.
Silence. You, my gods, tell me you were one of those seen with the goddess. Speak.
I didn't waste time spilling everything. My sister, Annie, stole your bird, and I was only trying to retrieve it. But he didn't believe me.
I know better than to trust your